Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Dave Guerra here. It is Tuesday. I was going to say Wednesday, but it is Tuesday. Tuesday, July 9th? I hope so. Either way, whatever. It's not the 10th yet. No, it's the 9th. How are you? Good evening. How's it going? Yeah, that's what my card says. It does say the 9th. So, good evening. How's it going? How are you? Hope you had a great day. Don't mind the sizzle. That's just some fajitas in the background kicking in. So, now we know what's for dinner. So, but pay no attention. Just don't pay attention to that. It's all mine. Sorry, not for you. Anyway, moving on. So here we go. Tonight it's Tuesday, and so that means leadership in the news, or in this case, a lack of leadership in the news. And this past weekend, and it was an extended weekend because it was the 4th of July weekend, which started on Thursday. So the news runs all the way back from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and so on and so on. And here we are, the 7th also, which was Sunday. Okay, so this past weekend, Nike, again, taking marketing advice, or actually right before the holiday, Nike taking marketing advice from the number one marketer in the world, former ex-NFL player, unemployed individual, Colin Kaepernick. He's giving Nike advice on how to sell its shoes. Apparently, and this is where I declare shenanigans, I mean, who listens to a guy. He's got no marketing experience, but yet the story is they're going to blame him. So, okay, blame him. He said, no, don't sell those shoes. Those represent a time when slavery was the standard. And it was talking about they were going to sell these Nike sneakers with the Betsy Ross flag. That's the stars and stripes. The stars are in a circle pattern, and red, white, and blue, 13, and the 13 stars in the blue field up in the upper left-hand corner of the flag. That's that famous photo or famous painting of George Washington accepting the flag from Betsy Ross, and he's kind of holding it. That flag right there represents a time when slavery was the standard. And I understand the point he's trying to make, but again, so if that's his way of thinking, then shouldn't we be giving the United States back to England? Because if that's what it was founded on, and then technically, shouldn't we be giving it back to somebody else, not England? Because at the time, England was pervasive with the slave trade. England was part of it, was in the mix. They had their own indentured servitude, debtor's prison. So that also led to, well, same thing. What happens? Do we go back and say, no, can't do that? And just keep going back in time until there's a point in time when there are no slaves? Somebody was always being indebted to somebody else. That was just kind of the case. And unfortunately, that's how things were. But this is a different age and time. Again, this flag represents the time when we were willing as a nation to fight for our freedom from tyranny and oppression, and people passing laws on us that, well, we weren't being properly represented by. And again, we had no voice back then. And I say we because we as a nation, not as we as individuals, we as a nation. And everybody's here for their own reason. Everybody got here some way in the United States. And again, who is this joker to tell me and to tell Nike and to tell everybody else that no, don't buy those sneakers? He doesn't. Again, what does he know? Was he a marketing major? I thought he was like a PE major or something like that. Dodgeball major for the hopscotch major. I have no idea what he was, but was he a marketing major? And does his marketing degree outweigh all the marketing that Nike has hired, all the marketing people, all the ad agencies? Is it? So, something to think about. And then again, it could all just be a sham, and they just blame him. And because apparently the stock market and the stock prices have gone up for Nike since this all broke. So again, it's become a situation where, they're making money off the misery of somebody else. And if that's the premise, shouldn't he just have said, you know what, go ahead and sell the sneakers? Next one, Starbucks. And this one was a big one. And again, it continues. There's this if nobody takes a step back and looks at the big picture, there's this perpetual nonsense going on there at Starbucks. And again, because the regional managers are not given they're given the authority to run their shops the way they run them to run, and then they're going to give the store managers the authority to run the shops the way they want to run them. then the assistant to the assistant deputy afternoon shift manager will run it the way he wants to run it. And apparently that was the case here in Arizona. Apparently the baristas, that's whatever you want to, however you want to pronounce it, told these two officers that were there on the 4th of July, working on the 4th of July, that they were making the customers uncomfortable. They were uncomfortable. So it's like, so they were asked to leave, and they left. And the storm that's come down again, Starbucks officially apologized. Well, your official apology continues to be just the same old thing. What is going on here? What is going on with Starbucks? From a leadership perspective, there isn't any. Sure, there's people that are quick to jump in and say, oh, we're sorry. There's plenty of that leadership. But where's the leadership at the level to say, hey, you know what, it's common sense. We're sorry these are police officers. We're sorry these are human beings. We're sorry these are people with money, with the green, and that's really all that matters. As long as they have the green and they're paying, then by all means, they have every right to be there. But again, I understand everybody has a right to refuse service for others. I stand behind that 100%. It's just the way it is. I can refuse to not like somebody's dollars because, you know what, they're faded. They're from like 1999 and not 2001 dollar bills. So you see what I'm talking about? I can refuse that service for that reason and that reason alone. I don't have to have a reason because I reserve the right. And so I get that. But when the corporation has gone out of its way to make them welcome, to want them to be there, apparently there's this coffee with the cops program going on there at that actual Starbucks, and they're not wanted there. Well, you know what? It's time to take your business someplace else. And, again, both of these things, both situations, the Nike and the Starbucks situation, are both for attacks on those responsible for giving these nitwits the right to free speech. Because again, these police officers are there protecting them on the 4th of July. And the same thing with the flag. It just represents a moment in time when, hey, we had a lot to give up. We had a lot to do to get what we have now and where we are now. So, you see what it kind of looks like there. It looks like somebody just doesn't have a clue anymore. People are starting to forget that everything has to work together. We all have to work together. As leaders, we have to sit down and sometimes if we have to beat it into their heads, we have to beat it into their heads. Hey, you're working here. You're earning the paycheck here. You have to follow these rules. And these rules are the cops are allowed here, just like anybody else who's paying. Now, and again, this was the situation with Starbucks not too long ago. Now they bring up paying. These two gentlemen were waiting for somebody to show up. They hadn't ordered. They did not order. And they were waiting for somebody to show up. They were going to meet, and then they were going to do their thing. And I get that. But you know what? After about 5-10 minutes, I get uncomfortable waiting for somebody. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and order something. Because I'm uncomfortable about me being there waiting for somebody to show up. And kind of the same thing I expect for others to do. If they're there waiting for me and I'm running a little bit late, guess what? I expect them to go ahead and don't take up space and go ahead and buy something and, basically validate your presence. But again, it's just common sense. And don't get me wrong. That's just my personal opinion. It's my belief, my common sense. What I say, I believe is common sense. But again, your own personal leadership at some point should say, hey, you know what? Maybe I should buy something. Maybe I should buy. Not because they're asking you, but because, again, you're there taking up space. Somebody else could be enjoying a cup of coffee right there where you're sitting waiting for your friend that's obviously going to be late. That being said, let's quit making this run on for far too long. Again, folks, it's just about common sense. You're going to be a leader. You make sure everybody, all your followers know what your expectations are. You're a business owner. You share that. You would instill it. If, like I said, sometimes you have to beat it into their heads. But make them understand that they have a job to do. And the job is to serve everyone. The job is to make money. In this case for Nike. Well, Starbucks too. In this case for Nike, they're going to sell these shoes. Hey, this veteran was interested in buying a pair of these shoes. Now, this veteran cannot buy a pair of those shoes because some knucklehead who's clueless, has a chip on his shoulder, and still continues to be clueless, instead of turning and spinning it around and making something positive out of that, continues to, So again, where are my rights? So I said it. Nike, put them online. I'll buy them online. Starbucks, you got a lot of explaining to do, and you definitely have a lot of work to do. You have a lot of work ahead of you, and this is not going to be the first time. Just like the last time in Philadelphia, wasn't the first time, it wasn't the last time. Obviously, it's not the last time. There's this disconnect between leadership, management, and the frontline staff. And folks, the frontline staff it's what's going to make you or break you. Don't believe me? That's fine. But believe this, they're the ones that are getting all the attention. Folks, my name's Dave Guerra. It is Tuesday, and this has been Leadership in the News. Until tomorrow, have a great evening. I'll talk to you then.